Alex kept me on a velvet leash for 5 years, and I played the part of his first love stand-in with grim devotion. He threw money at my career until I was named principal violinist, and I obediently stayed inside that gilded cage like a canary that had forgotten how to fly. The night Evelyn flew back to Riverdale, I tore the illegitimate contract to shreds and fed the scraps to the flames. "Casey, I'm done being your understudy in this substitute game." He gave a soft, lazy laugh and lifted one eyelid as if tossing me alms. "Without me, you wouldn't even qualify to busk on a street corner." I peeled off the docile mask I'd worn for years, joined an underground collective and started making genre-bending electro music. Months later I stormed the international stage with a recital that blew classical conventions apart, took home a top prize, and watched Alex's eyes redden from the front row. When the last note died, the packed ballroom erupted in applause. "Jiqiao, you played beautifully." Evelyn rose from the head table, walked up to me, and smiled. Tonight was the welcome home gala Alex had thrown for her first night back in 5 years. "Hymn to Starlight is brutal, and you didn't miss a single note." She went on complimenting me while I kept my head down, hugging my violin to my chest. "Miss Hale flatters me. It was Emery who made me practice it." "Ah, Yen does worry too much." Evelyn laughed softly, glancing back toward the lounge area. Alex occupied the center of the sofa, a glass of whiskey in hand. I looked over. The face that once sent my pulse racing wasn't looking at me at all. His gaze stayed fixed on Evelyn with a tenderness and focus he had never once aimed my way. A sudden pain lanced through my heart. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. "Come here." Alex spoke at last, flat, matter of fact, commanding me. Gathering the gown in one hand and the violin in the other, I walked over, every step an echo of Evelyn. For 3 years I had studied how she walked, how she smiled, the tilt of her head when she bowed. Alex had hired coaches to grind those details into me until they were perfect. Even tonight's gown replicated the 5-year-old look she had worn after her Vienna solo. Alex had had the dress, and every matching jewel, delivered to me. "Evelyn wants to hear the piece you played for your conservatory audition, Vivaldi's Summer. Remember?" He swirled his drink, voice unruffled. I froze for a fraction of a second. That concerto had been her audition showstopper, the performance that first shot her to fame. But the version I knew by heart was the old VHS tape in Alex's study, 17-year-old Evelyn in a pleated uniform, playing in a rundown practice room as sunlight haloed her hair. Whenever Alex got drunk he'd replay it, murmuring to me, "Evelyn's bow strokes are feather light, you dig in too hard." So I copied her again and again until I could have stepped into her skin. "Emery, I haven't touched that piece in ages." I lowered my eyes, voice small. "Then refresh it now, Evelyn wants to listen." There was no room to argue. Evelyn was already curled beside him, lips brushing his ear, murmuring something that drew a low chuckle from him. The intimacy of it stabbed me deeper than any insult. The hall quieted, every guest waited to watch the replica fumble through an imitation of the original. I raised the violin, then cracked the very first note. My fingers were wood, my mind flooded with grainy images from that tape, the reckless glow of young Evelyn, Alex's tender gaze fixed on the screen, and 5 years of me wearing her clothes, her hairstyle, her repertoire. No matter how desperately I sought a trace of approval in his eyes, all I ever earned was, "You still don't feel like her." After half a decade he still saw only Evelyn. Now the authentic one had returned, and even my right to mimic was being revoked. The notes limped along, muffled snickers floated from the crowd. "Stop." Alex cut in, impatience thinly veiled. "You're off form, don't spoil Evelyn's night." He regarded me the way a shopper eyes defective goods. When he turned back to Evelyn, a smile was already blooming. "Tonight's not the night. We'll have her play for you another time." Evelyn nodded graciously. "Jiqiao must be tired." "Ah Yen, don't be so strict." Alex let out an amused breath, eyes flicking toward me again. "If you're tired, go home and rest. Evelyn and I still have elders to greet." His tone was casual dismissal. He couldn't even be bothered to look at me another second. I set the violin down, whispered "all right," and left the banquet hall. Behind me, Evelyn's low laughter and Alex's warm chuckle chased my heels until I fled faster, almost running. The chauffeur dropped me at the high-rise downtown, Alex's graduation gift to me. In truth it was a cage disguised as a penthouse. Every wall bore a blow-up of Evelyn, every violin in the studio was a replica of instruments she had owned, even the bedroom's citrus oak diffuser burned the scent she preferred. For 5 years I had lived another woman's shadow. Alex bought me elite coaches, priceless instruments, a life dripping with luxury, and served it with total negation. You resemble her, but you will never be her. I dug out a long sealed folder, a contract titled Artistic Sponsorship Development Agreement, 5-year term. Beneath Alex's flamboyant signature was my own, signed at 18, Jiqiao. The clauses were straightforward. Sponsor, Alex, covers all music education, living expenses, performance opportunities. Recipient, Jiqiao, must follow sponsor's artistic plan, including appearance styling, repertoire direction, public persona, and may not accept outside funding or sign with third parties without written consent. Plain English, he had purchased my musical soul for 5 years and sculpted it into Evelyn 2.0. I opened my case and took out the violin I played most, the exact twin of the instrument Evelyn had received on her 18th birthday. When he handed it to me, he'd said, "Only this bow can make you truly become her." I snorted, tears splattering the varnish. I struck a match to the contract, then lifted the violin and slammed it against the wall. Wood and horsehair were never meant for rage. The neck snapped on the first impact. I smashed it again and again until it was a tangle of splinters and broken strings. Panting, I laughed and sobbed at once. Starting tonight, I would be nothing but Jiqiao. After I swept the wreckage into a trash bag and packed the rest of my life into a single suitcase, I sat in the living room until 2 a.m. The biometric safe chirped. Alex strode in, reeking of whiskey and Evelyn's perfume. He paused, taking in the chaos, opened suitcases, a shattered violin, the apartment stripped of my presence. His gaze settled on my luggage and his brows drew together. "What the hell are you doing?" "Emery, I'm terminating our agreement, effective immediately." I laid the penthouse keycard and the black gold supplemental credit card on the table. "Everything else you bought stays. Have your assistant inventory it tomorrow." Alex stared, and for the first time I saw genuine shock flicker across those usually glacial eyes. My throat tightened. Could my leaving actually wound him? Of course not. The next instant he recovered, wearing that patronizing smirk like armor. He closed the distance and pinched my chin hard. "Rowan? Jiqiao, do you even hear yourself? You think you can survive in this industry without me?" His laugh scraped the air, cruel and certain. "Strip away my contacts and you won't clear the first round of any reputable orchestra audition." He knew exactly which words would stab straight into the heart of my deepest insecurity, and he twisted the blade without mercy. I lifted my head and met the eyes that used to drown me. "Emery, thank you for raising me these 5 years, but even a stand-in gets tired of the role. Don't worry, I already burned the contract. From now on, whether I live or die, it has nothing to do with you." He let go. I stepped back at once, yanked up my suitcase, and turned to leave. "Jiqiao, the moment you walk through that door, don't come crawling back. Without me you're nothing." Alex's voice sank. This man had once been the only light I could clutch in my despair, and later the very hand that dragged me into deeper darkness. I had loved him, hated even more the version of myself that had groveled in the dust for every scrap of tenderness he threw. I didn't look back. I opened the door and walked out. Rain had started at some point. I had no idea where to go. The city was huge, yet it held no home of mine. My parents were long gone, relatives distant. Old classmates and friends had severed ties once Alex locked me away for 5 years. I sighed and dragged my suitcase and violin case deeper into the unknown. Behind me, on the top floor of that luxury high-rise, a figure stood motionless at the floor-to-ceiling window. Alex had lost track of how long he'd been staring. He watched the small silhouette shrink in the downpour, a sudden restless irritation flaring in his chest. He flung the empty wineglass hard against the marble floor. It rained all night. I sat in a 24-hour convenience store until dawn. I scrolled to the bottom of my contacts and couldn't find a single number to call. That was everything Alex had given me. A gilded cage and, once I left it, a barren wasteland. At daybreak I hauled my suitcase to my former conservatory professor's house. With my last shred of hope I knocked. The door cracked open. Professor Lee hesitated when he saw me. I started to speak but he cut me off. He said awkwardly, "Jiqiao, it's not that I won't help, but Emery made the rounds. No one in the scene will touch you." He sighed, distancing himself in self-preservation. "Child, go back and apologize to Emery. A girl shouldn't be so stubborn." The door shut, sealing away his counterfeit sympathy. For the next 3 days I blundered like a headless fly, crashing into every corner of the city. At the City Symphony audition, the moment personnel heard I'd been with Alex, my resume came back unopened. At the hotel gig, I was disqualified because I didn't own a decent gown to perform in. I hadn't taken a single outfit Alex had bought me. Finally I walked into a music restaurant. After I'd played a bit of Bach, the middle-aged owner sized me up with slime in his eyes. Not bad, but our patrons are rich, they care about face. Have a drink with a few VIPs tonight and the pay's negotiable. I packed my violin into its case and walked out without a glance. His sneer followed me, "Stop acting pure. Without Alex, who do you think you are?" The same words Alex had thrown at me that night. I began to understand what Alex meant by Taylor. People who once smiled because I was Sam now fled at the sight of me. My money ran out fast. I couldn't afford a motel, so I rented a basement studio on the city's edge. 1 pack of instant noodles a day was my limit, but the violin couldn't stop. When blisters rose on my fingers, I lanced them, taped them, and kept practicing. Sometimes I fingered the card I'd forgotten to return to Alex. 1 swipe and I could leave this damp hole, eat a real meal. No. I'd rather starve. On the 7th day after leaving Alex, I slung my violin over my shoulder and headed for a downtown subway underpass. I found a corner, laid the case open in front of me, and set up the instrument. No score, pure improvisation. All the resentment and pain that had knotted in my chest these days poured out. It wasn't pretty, it was even grating. Outsiders probably thought the player had lost her mind. After a long stretch, I stopped. Applause came from the corner. A guy who looked more rock than classical walked toward me, face lit up. "Did you write that yourself?" I eyed him warily and said nothing. "That modulation in bar 3, insane. Agony with kick. That's music, not the polished garbage they sell." His excitement was genuine. I was taken aback. "I'm Shane, composer, though the classical fossils won't own me." He stuck out his hand. I hesitated, then shook it. "Jiqiao." He thought a moment, then his eyes flashed. "Jiqiao? Wait, weren't you the one who used to be with Alex?" My face went white, I jerked my hand away, but Shane waved it off, utterly unbothered. "Relax, I don't care about gossip. Only the music matters." Without asking, he snapped my case shut and hauled me off. Meanwhile, Alex stood in the penthouse music room. Everything was pristine again, as if the woman had never existed there. His assistant briefed him. Jiqiao tried the symphony, hotels, a few private auditions, all rejected. She's in a basement studio on the outskirts, living tight. Yesterday she started busking in the subway underpass. Basement studio, she can endure. Alex tapped the piano lid. The assistant hesitated. Yesterday evening Shane approached her in the underpass. Alex's fingers stilled. "That genre-hopping lunatic?" The assistant nodded. Alex gave a cold laugh and moved to the window, city lights glittering beneath him. "She deserves no better. She thinks 1 straw will save her?" Naive. For no reason the image of her walking into the rain that night resurfaced. "Keep watching. I want to see how long she keeps thrashing in that muck. Once she breaks, she'll know whose door to crawl back to." After the assistant left, Alex, almost against his will, opened the covert clip of Jiqiao playing in the underpass. When the sound started, his breath hitched. That wasn't the Jiqiao he knew, the one always mimicking Evelyn. The playing writhed with life, raw and fighting, nothing like the docile echo in his mind. He stared at her face until the screen timed out. Alex loosened his tie, a surge of panic and loss flooding him, sour and unfamiliar. I joined Shane's underground band. Besides us there was a bassist and a drummer, both looked perpetually high. Yet the first time we jammed we locked in like magnets. Abandoning Evelyn's bowing and Alex's mandated elegance, my violin became a scream. Paired with bass and jazz drums it was perfect. When we finished everyone was panting, eyes blazing. Shane laughed. "Yes. Jiqiao, this is what I wanted." He vowed to smash classical rules, splice an electro-rock, make music with flesh and blood. My part, ring the most classical instrument into the most unclassical hell. Our debut was booked at a small livehouse. I changed into the same black tank and cargos the guys wore, graffiti streaked on my cheeks. The moment we started my violin shed every leash. It no longer belonged to Evelyn, no longer to Alex, it belonged to Jiqiao snarling on stage. The crowd exploded, applause, whistles, stomping feet. Shane flung an arm around my neck, grinning. Backstage I gulped water when a voice rose behind me. "Jiqiao." My hand froze mid-motion. Alex stood there in a suit that belonged anywhere but here, his face dark. He stared at me, then swept his gaze over Shane at my side, and Shane's arm, which hadn't yet left my shoulder. "Emery, what brings you to a place like this?" He came step by step, the room quieted, everyone watching with curiosity. "I thought you were just throwing a tantrum." I didn't expect you'd sink this low. He looked at my paint-smeared face and the battered violin, revulsion unmasked. Running with this crowd, scraping out third-rate noise, Zhiqiao, you think dabbling in these cheap tricks, making a spectacle of yourself, will prove leaving me was the right move? Shane's brows knit. He started to speak, but I lifted a hand to stop him. Emery, what I do now has nothing to do with you, does it? Alex's pupils tightened until we were barely a fist apart. We stood like that for several seconds. Finally Alex broke the silence. You'll regret this. Then he swung away and strode off. Shane glanced at me. I waved a hand, keep rehearsing. A few days later an entertainment headline rocketed up the trending tab. #X Golden Canary busking in rags. #suspected mental break after patron dump. The shot was my profile in the subway underpass, deliberately timed. Backstage at the Live House I stood with Shane's crew, contrasted beside an old photo of me as concertmaster. The caption insinuated that, discarded by Alex, I'd drowned myself in the underground scene, acting stranger by the day. More exclusives followed, claiming I'd been nothing but Alex's stand-in for his first love Evelyn. Now the original had returned, the fake was tossed aside like trash. Public opinion fermented, comments teemed with filthy speculation. Shane tried to keep me from reading, yet I scrolled line after line, strangely unmoved. No surprise, Evelyn's handiwork, of course. How could she allow a substitute, especially one struggling to cut the strings, to breathe easy? Days later a respected music blog dropped a review. It tore into so-called innovators who desecrate classical traditions, citing an unnamed violinist once poised for greatness who'd slid into noise experiments. Anyone could tell they meant Shane's project, and me. The piece lamented how my playing now possessed only an empty shell, hollow as a mad patient's rant. Several influential critics retweeted, the wind shifted. Then an anonymous chat log surfaced. Screenshots claimed I'd harassed Alex repeatedly, begging to reconcile. Scorned, I'd fled into anti-mainstream music as unhinged revenge. Bucket after bucket of slop, purpose crystal clear, nail me to the pillar of shame, forever bar my return to the classical spotlight. Rehearsal room air turned leaden. Shane dragged on a cigarette, face dark, saying nothing, soft yet venomous. The method felt quintessentially Evelyn, choking every exit. Scared? Shane asked suddenly. I lifted my eyes to his. Are you? Shane grinned. There's a cutting-edge festival in Berlin next month. I got us invited, wanted it to be a surprise. Feel like blowing the roof off? The answer was obvious. The harder they shove me down, the louder I'll turn that noise into artillery. Half a month had passed since Alex saw Zhiqiao at the Live House, yet his restlessness grew. When he heard she and Shane were heading to Berlin, his eyes snapped open. Reckless. That stage isn't for her. What rattled him more, though, was Evelyn. She visited ever oftener, voice dipped in worry, always circling back to Zhiqiao's latest disgrace. On the surface she fretted, underneath, she fed him each toxic headline. At first Alex thought it concern, but the pattern soon chafed. Today Evelyn arrived at the office with homemade pastries. Alex, don't think me meddlesome, she murmured. I'm just scared for Zhiqiao. Look at these trending threads, her name's rotting. I'm afraid she'll ruin herself. Alex's gaze flicked across the screen she offered, the mocking words knotted his brow. Did you dig these up? The question cracked like a whip. Evelyn's face faltered, tears welled at once. How could you suspect me? Everyone in the scene is sharing them, I only happened to see. I know you feel guilty, but she's lost her way. I don't want her clinging to you again, dragging your name through the mud. Alex said nothing. He studied her fragile pose, once so worthy of protection, and felt nothing, only a dull irritation. I'll handle my own affairs. Go home, I have a meeting. He turned away, voice flat. Evelyn stiffened, smile brittle, then snatched her bag and hurried out. After the door shut Alex leaned back, eyes closed. Evelyn's smile blurred, while the image of a transformed Zhiqiao, half a month old, sharpened. He remembered, ages ago, when Zhiqiao had first joined him, he'd told her to play an Evelyn showpiece. She missed a note, fingers trembling. He'd dismissed her as clumsy, unfit for the stage. Now the original was back, exactly as he'd wished, so why did victory taste like dust? News that our ensemble had won at Berlin came via Shane's 3 a.m. call. Zhiqiao. We did it. We took the prize. I sat in the dim basement studio, phone clenched, tears racing down. At last I'd proved myself, free of Alex. I opened the trending tab. Within 48 hours our set had flooded the net. A new voice that shatters classical chains. This is philosophy. Ji Qiao isn't playing, she's casting spells. Praise and think pieces poured in. The festival's official feed repeated my name endlessly. Invitations, concerts, media, collabs, from every corner of the globe, brands I'd only read about in magazines. Shane filtered them, assembled a tiny studio. Then the hurricane hit. First came an article denouncing our piece Rebirth as sensationalist tripe. It mourned a violinist who could have graced the classical canon but strayed. Next, coordinated paid trolls blanketed social media. Ji Qiao's violin sounds like a hacksaw on tin. Desperate for fame, what a waste of a pretty face. Zero chops, she was only concertmaster because Alex bankrolled her. Shane glared at the screen, angrier than I was. Evelyn again? How craven, sock puppets galore. I closed the tab and kept practicing. Ignore her, this could poison the golden jury, he protested. Shane, we got here on our music, not on gossip. He stared, then broke into a resigned laugh. I made the short list for the Golden Bough with Rebirth at Berlin. When the names were released, Evelyn's was right there beside mine. The announcement rattled the classical world. One slot went to the former prodigy who'd gone rogue, the other to the poster girl of the establishment. In another sense, it was also a showdown between the original and the stand-in. The topic blew up overnight. Minutes after the list dropped, Evelyn posted a breezy note congratulating me and wishing both of us luck. Pure Evelyn, gracious and poised, and every outlet sang her praises. On my side, paid trolls stopped attacking the music and went after my character and motives, hinting I was milking my past with Alex for buzz and had angled for the Golden Bough just to stomp on Evelyn. The goodwill I'd earned at Berlin vanished like smoke. The eve of the ceremony, an anonymous thread arrived at my door. Inside were a few photographs. They showed me from years back, wearing Evelyn's gown, playing in Alex's penthouse, my expression copied from her every microsmile. On the back, one line, "A fake is always a fake, never fit for the big stage." Looking at those images was like staring into my worst gutter of memory. For a second my heart clenched, but sharper pain was instantly swallowed by a hotter wave of rage. They still thought this trick could chain me. Did they expect me to fold now? Alex learned about the letter the next dawn. Evelyn had a matinee that day. Alex walked straight to her dressing room. He pushed the door open without a flicker of expression. Evelyn lit up when she saw him. "Alex, what are you doing here? You didn't even text." "Everyone out," he said. He didn't answer her. His icy glance swept the room. No one dared question. Heads down, they scurried out, leaving only Alex and Evelyn. Evelyn's smile froze. She caught his hand. "Alex, what's wrong? Did something happen at the office?" He sidestepped her touch and sat on the nearest chair. Yesterday Ji Qiao received a threat, old photos, hand-delivered to her building. Evelyn stopped smiling, fingers tightening on her skirt. "I checked. Your assistant dug them up and dropped them at her door." His voice stayed flat as he lifted his gaze to her. "No. Alex, listen." She stepped closer, eyes reddening instantly. "That assistant has been with me forever. She saw how stressed I've been about the awards, heard the ugly rumors about Ji Qiao, and acted on her own to defend me. I scolded her already. I'm as stunned as you. Alex, you have to believe me." She burst into tears, heart-wrenching. Alex didn't move, he only watched. When her sobs quieted, he spoke again, voice still soft. "Fine, your assistant went rogue. Then tell me, where did you get the piece you played in the Vienna Young Artists Final 5 years ago?" The question hit like a slap. Evelyn's head jerked up, terror flooding her face. When the assistant uncovered that file, even Alex had flinched. That victory had catapulted Evelyn onto the Golden Hall stage and built her legend. Right after, one competitor had filed a protest, then saw it buried. The contestant's name was Aaron, Ji Qiao's closest senior at conservatory. He claimed Evelyn's finale matched an unpublished manuscript of his, complete with timestamp sketches. The panel tossed the appeal for insufficient evidence, hushed the story, and Aaron withdrew, sick, dying a few years later. Alex now held the manuscript and a spectral analysis of Evelyn's performance. Even a child could see the overlap. He remembered, too, the hollow look on Ji Qiao's face whenever Aaron's name came up. She must have been heartbroken when her mentor and friend faded away. Fury climbed Alex's throat. So Evelyn's celebrated genius, her polished image, were erected on filthy theft, while she spent years smiling for cameras and whispering poison about Ji Qiao. She hadn't just stolen a score, she'd tried to steal a life, grinding the truly gifted into dirt to keep her halo gleaming. Aaron, remember him? The genius whose life you hijacked. Evelyn shrieked, palms clamped over her ears. No. It's slander. The jury cleared me. Alex. We grew up together, you know who I am. It's Jiqiao, she's jealous, she spun this lie to destroy me. Enough. His snarl cracked the air. He closed on her, staring at the face that once haunted his dreams, now only churning his stomach. I read Aaron's manuscript, I saw the overlay. Sleeping well after climbing over corpses into the Golden Hall? I didn't. I never. Tears and snot blurred her face, she reached for him. Alex, please. I love you. All these years, how can a stand-in's rumors wreck that? He laughed, a raw bark, and flung her hand away, slamming her against the table edge. Our entire story was a fairy tale you rewrote. Evelyn, you're beyond salvation. She collapsed, shrieking, that's not true. Let me explain. Arms clawing empty air. Without another glance, Alex shifted to ice-cold business mode. Effective immediately, Cross Holdings and every affiliated entity sever all partnerships, sponsorships, and endorsements with you. Existing contracts will be honored and terminated, future cooperation is cancelled in perpetuity. He strode out. Alex. You can't. Evelyn wailed behind him, sanity snapping. Because that publicity slut Jiqiao is hot right now, you torch me? I grew up with you. She's just a bot stand-in. Alex paused, turned slowly. The girl he once worshipped looked repulsive. He walked back and crouched. Hope flickered in Evelyn's swollen eyes. Alex, a brutal slap snapped her head sideways, crimson bloomed on her cheek, ringing filled her ears. Stunned, she gaped up at him. He straightened, staring down with revulsion. That was for Jiqiao. I was blind, I penned her in a cage, thinking it safe, nearly rubbed out every spark. Now I see, she isn't anyone's copy. She's Jiqiao, 1,000 times cleaner and truer than you. A bitter smile tugged his lips. You're not even worthy of casting her shadow. This time he didn't look back. Slumped in the back seat, Alex's mind was chaos. He recalled the first time he saw Jiqiao, clutching a battered violin yet burning with bravado. He had stopped in his tracks, and not because she resembled Evelyn. Jiqiao. Her name scraped out. How laughable he, Alex, had been. Regret crashed over him like a late thunderstorm. He had to see her, now. He blew through 2 red lights, one thought drumming, her new address. Tires shrieking, he jerked to a halt outside her building. Just as he yanked the door open, the lobby door swung the other way. Jiqiao stepped out, and right behind her came Shane. He walked and talked to Jiqiao, the corner of his mouth lifted in a smile, and she laughed as she listened. An evening breeze drifted past, a single leaf landed on Jiqiao's shoulder. Almost without thinking, Shane reached over and gently brushed it away. Jiqiao didn't flinch, she seemed long used to the gesture. Alex stood beside the car, soaked to the bone, rain streaming into his eyes, stinging and blurring his sight. Yet he felt nothing at all. What he had just seen had seared a hole straight through his heart. Jealousy and rage clawed at his lungs until he could barely breathe. But what could he do? And by what right? Alex finally understood. The girl was slipping farther and farther away from him. The days crawled by until, at last, the evening of the Golden Awards arrived. Don't be nervous, you're amazing, Shane whispered backstage, giving me a pep talk. Not long ago he had confessed his feelings to me, but I told him plainly that I wasn't ready to think about romance. Shane took it in stride. With a small smile he tucked the disappointment away. Then it was my turn. Global live feed cameras zeroed in on me as I stepped onto the stage, lifted my violin, and faced the ocean of appraising eyes. The music swept through the hall like a tidal wave. When the final note vanished, applause erupted with the force of a tsunami. The moment my name was announced, Shane sprinted up and hugged me so hard my feet left the floor. Suddenly the auditorium doors burst open, gasps rippled through the crowd. A cloudburst had arrived outside, and Alex stormed in, dripping wet. Under thousands of streaming cameras, his handsome, refined face was streaked with rain. His eyes were bloodshot, fixed on Jiqiao, who stood beside Shane. Then, stumbling forward, he dropped to one knee on the red carpet in front of her. Jiqiao, I was wrong, please, don't leave me. His voice cracked, yet every syllable shot clear across the world. Live chat feeds exploded? That's CEO Alex? OMG, real life chasing wife at funeral fire meme. Every lens focused on the man on his knees and the queen who looked down at him. I stared at him, my face blank. Shane instantly moved between us, shielding me, every muscle coiled. The small gesture sliced Alex open. Mad jealousy flared in his eyes as he jabbed a finger at Shane. He's just an underground rock lunatic, what can he give you? I can give you everything. Emery, watch your setting and your words, I said at last. Shane is my music partner, my Riley. He respects me and never measures worth in dollars or cages. Alex looked up, he knew exactly what I meant. Jiqiao, you ache now because something you always controlled has spun out of your grip, your ridiculous pride and possession talking. I stripped him bare without mercy. No, Jiqiao. He clawed for my gown, but Shane stepped in and blocked him. I love you, only you. Not some stand-in. Come back to me. On the world's brightest stage, his confession sounded absurd. The audience sat in stunned silence, every breath held. Slowly I shook my head, pity flickering across my gaze. You raised me as a replacement for 5 years, tossed me like trash the moment Evelyn returned, tailor-ed me when I fought free, watched while others tried to ruin me, and you call that love? Each sentence drained more color from his face. Nothing in those 5 years is sweet enough for you to recycle now. My voice was ice. The game's over. Don't trespass on my life again. I turned and walked away without looking back. That night 2 bombshells detonated across the internet. 1. Alex's frantic awards hall plea. 2. Concrete proof that Evelyn's early hits were plagiarized. Add her recent scandal of sending assistants to threaten me, and the goddess facade collapsed overnight. Alex grew wilder, he cashed in every favor and bought the front pages of every major outlet for the next week. Each carried a single line, Jiqiao, I'm sorry, please come back. He also stationed himself below my apartment, paparazzi be damned. To protect me, Shane moved into my spare room. Every morning their eyes locked across the sidewalk, and fights erupted. Haven't you done enough damage? Back off. Shane snarled, fists bunched in Alex's collar. Alex's stare was hollow. Just let me speak to her, one sentence. The same scene played. Shane grabbed Alex's collar, shaking with rage. Alex stared hollowly. Let me talk to her, just one sentence. The same drama replayed day after day. On the 7th evening I finally went downstairs. Seeing me, Alex's eyes lit up. Jiqiao, I stopped in front of him. Alex, I forgive you for those 5 years. His body jerked as if shot. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to let the past keep crushing me. I'm letting go, you need to do the same. The light in his gaze died. No. Jiqiao, I don't want forgiveness, I want you back. I shook my head and glanced at Shane beside me. We ended long ago. I have my life now, and my Riley. For the sake of what we once were, let's part cleanly, don't haunt me anymore, Riley. He echoed, eyes drifting between Shane and me. At last he saw that this woman would never soften for him again. He wilted, a tree stripped of sap, hunched and withered. Something in my chest twinged, just once, then stilled. I looked away. All right. I understand. After an eternity his voice came, so light it might vanish on the wind. He gave me one last look, pouring every ounce of life into it. After that, Alex vanished. A week later the news reported he had moved overseas. His leaving was as quiet as his whirlwind chase and remorse, eventually erased by time. My life settled into calm. Sometimes, when the lights come up after a concert, I remember that rainy night, him on his knees, broken and begging. But the memory fades, because the future belongs to me, to Jiqiao. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you liked this video, please like and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.